In the headlines, a high-stakes handshake set to happen in America's North. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin set to meet one-on-one in Alaska, a place once under Russian rule. In besieged Gaza, another child's life claimed by hunger due to severe malnutrition amid the ongoing war. 5-year-old Mohammed Zakaria lost his months-long fight to survive. Southern Syria shaken by a horrific hospital shooting. Eyewitnesses say armed men stormed Suwaida National Hospital, killing a volunteer in front of staff and terrifying doctors and nurses. In Myanmar, thousands turned out in the capital to pay their final respects at the state funeral of acting President U Myint Swe, who passed away last week at the age of 74. In South Korea, ex-First Lady Keon-hee is behind bars over graft charges that include stock manipulation and bribery. Her husband, ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol, is also in prison as he faces trial after his impeachment in April over a batch attempt to declare martial law. Tensions rise again in the West Philippine Sea after the latest confrontation near Bajo de Masinloc involving Philippine Coast Guard vessels and Chinese ships as operations to assist fisherfolk and defend the country's claims continue. The Department of Budget and Management has turned over to Congress its proposed 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026, 7.4% higher than this year's. In the sports world, Gilas Pilipinas pulling off a dramatic 95-88 overtime win against Saudi Arabia and booking a quarter-final clash with undefeated Australia in the Asia Cup. I'm Fatima Nawzil. Newsline World starts now. At a press briefing on Tuesday, the White House confirmed that former President Donald Trump will sit down one-on-one with Russian President Vladimir Putin this Friday in Alaska. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the meeting came at Putin's request, relayed through his special envoy Steve Witkoff, who recently traveled to Russia. She says Trump's goal is to gain a better understanding of how to end the war in Ukraine and hopes a trilateral meeting with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky could follow. When asked if Trump is optimistic, Leavitt called it a listening exercise. She also addressed Trump's earlier remark that he was going to Russia, calling it a slip but leaving the door open for a future visit. The talks will be held in Anchorage, a city with its own historical link to Russia, which sold Alaska to the U.S. for $7.2 million back in 1867. As of now, the exact location of the much-anticipated meeting has not yet been reported.
And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. Perhaps there are plans in the future to travel to Russia, and on Friday, the president will be meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska.
The White House is hinting that U.S. President Donald Trump could travel to Russia in the future. This comes just days before his scheduled meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. Franco Baranda reports.
President Trump and President Putin are set to meet on August 15 in Anchorage, Alaska, their first face-to-face talks since Trump began his second term. The White House says discussion will focus on the Ukraine conflict and strengthening U.S.-Russia ties. Moscow says it expects the next round of talks after Alaska to take place in Russia and confirmed Trump has already been invited. Trump has said he aims to eventually bring Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the same table, but Zelensky will not be part of Friday's talks. Putin, on the other hand, has said he has nothing in principle against meeting Zelensky, but insists certain conditions must be met first. Russia also questions Zelensky's legitimacy as his presidential term expired last year and elections were not held under martial law. The Alaska talks will be hosted at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, the state's largest military installation. For God and my beloved Philippines, Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
With high-stakes talks between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, Ukraine's president is drawing the line, saying he will not hand over the Donbas region in exchange for peace. But Trump says territorial swaps will be on the table in Alaska. This report. In Kyiv, President Volodymyr Zelensky is rejecting any Russian proposal to trade territory for a ceasefire, warning that giving up the Donbas would only set the stage for a future attack. Zelensky says Ukraine will not leave the Donbas and insists the core issue is illegal occupation. Zelensky claims ceding land could hand Moscow a springboard for renewed aggression, saying it would give Russia about 9,000 square kilometers, nearly 30% of the Donetsk region. The Donbas, made up of Luhansk and Donetsk, has been partly occupied by Russia since 2014. Moscow now controls almost all of Luhansk and about 70% of Donetsk. Ukraine's president argues withdrawing now would abandon fortifications and high ground, opening the door to a fresh offensive. But in Washington, President Trump says a land swap remains part of his peace plan and expressed frustration with Zelensky's stance.
I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody.
Trump says the upcoming talks in Alaska will try to get some of that territory back for Ukraine, but hinted that some areas might remain under Russian control.
Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine.
Zelensky has repeatedly rejected any territorial concessions to Russia, maintaining his claims to the country's land. Moscow, however, has insisted that any peace deal must include Ukraine's withdrawal from what it now calls its new regions. The Alaska summit with Putin is set for August 15 and is expected to focus on ending the Ukraine conflict and reshaping the battlefield map. In Gaza, another child has lost his life to severe malnutrition. 5-year-old Mohammed Zakaria died at Nasser Medical Complex after months of struggling to survive. His father says he fought to keep him alive for more than 5 months. Justin Nazario for the rest of the story.
Doctors say Muhammad's body was little more than skin and bone, a result of extreme hunger and lack of baby formula, supplements, and proper nutrition. Palestinian media report at least 222 people, including 101 children, have died of malnutrition since the war began.
محمد زكريا كان يعاني من سوء تغذية شديد جدا حيث أن كان وزنه قرابة 12 كيلوغرام لكنه يعني ساعة الوفاة كان 3 كيلوغرام. محمد زكريا من أحد الأمثلة على سوء التغذية الشديد الذي يحصف في الأطفال في قطاع غزة. هو يعاني من يعني إصابة حركية أو إعاقة حركية لكنه هذا لا يمنع أنه أصيب بسوء تغذية شديد.
The doctor added that he was nothing more than a skeleton covered in skin. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, a 2-year-old Sham Kudayi was rushed to the same hospital, weighing only 4.5 kilos. She suffers from severe malnutrition, an enlarged liver, and a suspected rare genetic disorder. Doctors warn she needs urgent treatment outside Gaza or her immune system will collapse. The United Nations says more than 100 children have died of malnutrition since October 2023. The World Food Programme warns 300,000 others in Gaza are at serious risk. Israel denies carrying out a policy of starvation, blaming Hamas for looting aid, a claim Hamas rejects. The war began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a deadly attack on southern Israel, killing more than 1,100 people and taking over 200 hostages. Israel's response has killed more than 61,000 Palestinians, according to local authorities. Justin Azario, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Armenia and the United States have kicked off their annual joint military exercise Eagle Partner 2025. The drills, which will run until August 20, focus on peacekeeping operations with a special emphasis on medical evacuation. The opening ceremony in Armenia was attended by the country's first Deputy Defense Minister and Chief of General Staff, Lieutenant General Edward Assyrian, along with U.S. Ambassador Christina Quinn, senior military leaders, and invited guests. According to the U.S. Embassy in Yerevan, the exercise brings together Armenia's Peacekeeping Brigade, U.S. Army Europe and Africa, and the Kansas National Guard. Running through August 20, the drills aim to strengthen interoperability between units in international peacekeeping missions, exchange best practices in command and tactical communications, and boost the readiness of Armenians' peacekeeping forces. The U.S. Embassy says these units regularly take part in similar joint exercises with partner nations to prepare for deployment in what it calls peacekeeping roles. Wildfires are wreaking havoc across Montenegro, burning for a second straight day on Tuesday as scorching summer heat fuels the flames. Sarah Santos reports.
From the Adriatic coast to inland villages, blazes have been reported in Piperi, Kuchi, Kanj-Buljarica, and Bijilipolje. Senior emergency official Nikola Bojanovic has described the situation as catastrophic. Evacuations are already underway in some municipalities. In the Bar region, thick plumes of smoke rose over the coastal towns of Kanj and Buljarica, while in Podgorica's Durkovice-Rogami area, the fire engulfed hillsides. Montenegro has called in reinforcements, with neighboring Serbia sending a Russian-made Kamov firefighting helicopter, the largest in the region with a 5-ton payload. Footage shows it scooping up water and dumping it over the burning slopes. Serbia's Ministry of the Interior says the Kamov has been airborne since early Tuesday morning, dropping more than 248 tons of water so far. 5 more Serbian helicopters are on standby to assist. Deputy Prime Minister Ivica Dačić says the mission reflects Serbia's readiness to help its neighbor, declaring solidarity knows no borders. Reporting, Sarah Santos, SMNI News.
Up next, in Myanmar, thousands turned out in the capital to pay their final respects at the state funeral of acting President U Myint Swe, who passed away last week at the age of 74. And in South Korea, ex-First Lady Keon-hee is behind bars over graft charges that include stock manipulation and bribery. Her husband, ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol, is also in prison as he faces trial after his impeachment in April over batch attempt to declare martial law. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Maging ligtas, maging handa. Narito ang ilang paalala kung sakaling tumama ang lindol. Maghanda ng emergency kits na may lamang flashlight, pito, first aid kit, tubig at pagkain. Alamin ang emergency exits sa inyong bahay, paaralan o opisina. Habang lumilindol, magtago sa ilalim ng matibay na lamesa upang maprotektahan ang sarili sa mga nahuhulog na bagay. Lumayo sa mga bintana at mabibigat na gamit na maaaring mahulog. Kung ikaw ay nasa labas, lumayo sa mga gusali, puno o poste na maaaring matumba. Kung ikaw ay nagmamaneho, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan at lumabas. Pagkatapos ng lindol, gamitin ang hagdan sa paglabas ng gusali at huwag gumamit ng elevator. Maging alerto sa aftershocks at manatili sa open space kung kinakailangan. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
In Myanmar, thousands have gathered in the capital for the state funeral of acting President U Myint Swe. He passed away last week at the age of 74 after months of illness. This report from Paul Montibor.
Crowds lined the streets of Naypyidaw on Monday as the funeral procession made its way through the city. Government officials, soldiers, and residents stood side by side to pay their respects. At the Defense Services General Hospital, Armed Forces Chief Min Aung Hlaing led top leaders in honoring the late president. The state media reports Myint Swe's health had sharply declined before he was moved to intensive care. With a fever, severe weight loss, and other complications, a career military officer turned politician, Myint Swe served as acting president since the army seized power in February 2021. His term was marked by violent clashes between the military, ethnic militias, and pro-democracy groups. He stepped back from duties in mid-2024 because of his poor health. The funeral marks the end of a political chapter in Myanmar's turbulent recent history, with the country still gripped by conflict and unrest. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
In South Korea, former First Lady Keon-hee has been arrested over multiple criminal allegations as her husband, impeached ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol, remains behind bars facing insurrection charges. Kim Suk has the latest news.
South Korea's former First Lady Keon-hee was taken into custody Tuesday morning after appearing at the Seoul Central District Court for a hearing on serious criminal charges. Footage shows Kim entering the courthouse with her legal team, refusing to answer questions from reporters about allegations of stock manipulation, bribery, and election interference. She is accused of manipulating share prices linked to Deutsche Motors, violating the Capital Markets Act, accepting luxury gifts in exchange for influence, and meddling in candidate selections for the 2022 by-elections and 2024 general elections, charges she firmly denies. Kim's arrest comes as her husband, former President Yoon Suk-yeol, continues to stand trial following his dramatic arrest on January 15th this year. He faces insurrection charges over a short-lived martial law declaration in December, which prosecutors say was aimed at undermining parliament. A conviction could mean life imprisonment or even the death penalty. This marks the first time in South Korean history that both a former president and a former first lady are imprisoned at the same time on separate charges. Kim is expected to remain in detention as investigations continue. Yoon's trial, meanwhile, is ongoing, with prosecutors pushing for the harshest penalty. This is Kim Sung, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Egypt is celebrating the return of 13 Asian treasures recovered from 2 European countries, among them a mummy's skull, sacred amulets, and rare artifacts dating back thousands of years. Prince Tripoli for the story.
Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities says the recovery is part of a national push to bring home looted heritage. The operation involved Egypt's foreign ministry and cooperation from authorities in London and Berlin. The UK handover followed a Metropolitan Police investigation into an international antiquities trafficking network. In Germany, the return began when Hamburg officials alerted Egypt's embassy to illegally transported artifacts. The treasures are now at Cairo's Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square for conservation before going on public display. The move comes as more African nations demand the return of cultural treasures, with recent repatriations from the Netherlands to Nigeria. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, your citizen correspondent.
The United Kingdom is facing a prison crisis with tens of thousands of prisoners, including hundreds convicted of serious crimes, have been released early. The move is part of an emergency plan to ease overcrowding in the nation's prisons. Daniela Paulita for the story.
In the United Kingdom, more than 26,000 inmates, including violent offenders, are walking free early. It's a controversial move to tackle a growing crisis in the nation's jails. Among them, hundreds are serving 14 years or more for serious crimes. Most were British, but over 2,600 were foreign nationals. UK's Interior Ministry data shows knife crime in England and Wales has risen 87% in the past decade, with nearly 55,000 incidents last year. UK government figures also show that between September 2024 and March 2025, 248 prisoners serving sentences of 14 years or more were among those freed. The vast majority were British citizens, but more than 2,600 were foreign nationals. Some freed inmates reoffended and were rearrested within hours. The current UK government says it had no choice after inheriting a prison system at breaking point. Now, the UK government says it plans to build 14,000 new prison places and reforming sentencing to prevent future shortages. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
Coming up, southern Syria shaken by a horrific hospital shooting. Eyewitnesses say armed men stormed Soweida National Hospital, killing a volunteer in front of staff and terrifying doctors and nurses. And tensions rise again in the West Philippine Sea after the latest confrontation near Bajo de Masinloc involving Philippine Coast Guard vessels and Chinese ships as operations to assist fisherfolk and defend the country's claims continue. Stay tuned for more news.
Matunog ngayon ang salitang impeachment sa Pilipinas dahil sa nakambang impeachment trial kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Pero ang tanong ng taong bayan, ito ba ay para sa interes ng bansa o para sa politikal na motibo lamang? Sa ilalim ng saligang batas, may mga opisyal ng pamahalaan na maaaring tanggalin sa pwesto sa pamamagitan ng impeachment. Kabilang dito ang Pangulo, Pangalawang Pangulo, mga mahistrado ng Korte Suprema, mga miyembro ng Constitutional Commission at ang Ombudsman. Maaaring ma-impeach ang mga nabanggit na opisyal dahil sa matinding paglabag sa konstitusyon, pagtataksil sa bayan, panunuhol, katiwalian, mabibigat na krimen o pagtataksil sa tiwala ng publiko. Sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas, ilang matataas na opisyal na ang humarap sa impeachment trial. Noong taong 2000, si Pangulong Joseph Erap Estrada ang unang Pangulo ng bansa na humarap sa isang impeachment trial. Taong 2011 naman, si Ombudsman Merceditas Gutierrez ay naharap din sa impeachment dahil sa umano'y kapabayaan sa pag-aksyon sa mga kaso ng katiwalian. Hindi na siya humarap sa pagdinig sapagkat bago pa magsimula ang impeachment trial ay nagbitiw na ito sa pwesto. Noong 2012, si Chief Justice Renato Corona ay napatalsik naman mula sa Korte Suprema sa unang pagkakataon na impeach ang isang Chief Justice matapos mapatunayang hindi niya idineklara ang kanyang Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth o SALN ng buo. Ano nga ba ang proseso ng pag-impeach sa isang mataas na opisyal batay sa konstitusyon? Maaaring magsampa ng reklamo ang isang miyembro ng Kongreso o isang mamamayan basta may sumusuportang kongresista. Kapag 1/3 ng mga miyembro ng Kamara ang sumang-ayon, tuloy na agad ang proseso ng impeachment sa Senado. Sa sandaling maaprubahan ito ng House of Representatives, binubuo na ang Articles of Impeachment, isang dokumento na naglalaman ng mga aligasyon o batayan para sa impeachment. Pero tandaan, walang impeachment proceedings na maaaring isampa laban sa parehong opisyal ng higit sa isang beses sa loob ng isang taon. Ang Senado naman ang magsisilbing impeachment court kapag ang Pangulo ang nililitis, ang punong mahistrado ang namumuno, ngunit hindi bumoboto. 2/3 ng mga senador ang kailangan para hatulan ang opisyal. Anong parusa? Pagkakatanggal sa pwesto at diskwalipikasyon na makabalik sa gobyerno. Ang impeachment ay hindi simpleng usapin sa politika. Isa itong seryosong proseso na maaaring makaapekto sa kinabukasan ng bansa. Kaya sa panahong puno ng ingay at intriga, kinakailangan nating maging mapanuri, patas at maging makabayan. Bantayan natin ang katotohanan, pumanig tayo sa hustisya at higit sa lahat, unahin natin ang interes ng sambayanang Pilipino.
In southern Syria, new eyewitnesses accounts are emerging from a shocking attack inside Suwaida National Hospital. Medical staff say armed men stormed the building, killed a colleague, and terrorized doctors and nurses despite claiming they would not harm them. Almar Farsuelo has a story.
Nurse Nasim Al-Shofi was on duty when the gunmen entered, some in army uniforms, others in tribal clothing, many wearing religious slogans.
كان في لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله هذه كانت موجودة والغالبية كله موجود هذه العبارة.
These armed men in uniform had apparently reassured the medical staff their safety, promising not to harm them, but moments later, they attacked Muhammad.
They told us, "You're safe, we won't harm the medical staff." But then they started hurling sectarian slurs at Druze people, and moments later, They attacked Muhammad.
Mohammed Al-Basas, an engineer volunteering at the hospital, had been handing water to one of the armed men. The gunman threw it back and began insulting him. Seconds later, Mohammed was beaten, thrown to the ground, and shot dead.
They executed Muhammad on the spot before our eyes. Then they said, "No one touch this pig, we'll throw him in the landfill, and no one is allowed to approach or film him."
Staff say the attackers threatened to kill everyone if reinforcements arrived, search every ward at gunpoint, and harass female workers, demanding to know if they were married or accompanied by men. Some nurses say they feared being taken captive and even thought about ending their own lives to avoid it.
They violated every protection and law. We are a hospital, neutral, providing humanitarian service, but they respected nothing.
Water pipes was shattered by gunfire, leaving the hospital without water for 2 days. Staff say the ordeal lasted until 3 in the morning when the gunman finally disappeared. Syria's Interior Ministry has condemned the attack and promised those responsible will be brought to justice. But for the staff of Suwaida National Hospital, the fear and trauma of that night will be much harder to erase. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Swallow, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. is standing firm, vowing to protect the Philippines' territory and maritime rights in the West Philippine Sea, even after the latest confrontation near Bajo de Masinloc. Malacanang Palace officials say operations in the West Philippine Sea will go on as planned, with the Philippine Coast Guard or PCG helping fisher folk and defending the country's maritime claims.
Sinabi din ng Pangulo na wala siyang ibibigay ng panibagong instruction, kundi mananatili pa rin ang pagprotekta sa karapatan ng Pilipinas sa teritoryo at sa sovereign rights at maritime rights ng Pilipinas.
Marcos Jr. also stressed the Philippines will not back down from any conflict, saying Filipinos are brave. This statement follows an incident on Monday where a Chinese naval vessel collided with a Chinese Coast Guard ship during a pursuit of the Philippine patrol boat BRP Suluan near Bajo de Masinloc. The PCG and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources were in the area distributing aid to fisher folk under the Kadiwa para sa Bagong Bayaning Mangingisda program. From Sultan Kudarat to the wider Malay and Muslim world, a new chapter of cooperation begins, led by a vision for unity, progress, and peace across borders as Governor Datu Pax Ali Mangunda Datu formally assumes leadership. This report from Jason Rubrico.
A colorful gala night was hosted by the provincial government of Sultan Kudarat and Dunia Melayu Dunia Islam Philippines, celebrating the deepening ties between Sultan Kudarat and Melaka, Malaysia. Leading the event were Governor Datu Pax Ali Mangunda Datu and Melaka Governor Haji Mod Ali bin Mod Rustam.
Truly, this night is going to be memorable. It is a night not only symbolizing our strength and partnership, but it is a night symbolizing our brotherhood, familyhood, and most of all, our oneness as one ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
During the event, Governor Rustam formally turned over the leadership of Dunia Melayu Dunia Islam or DMDI Philippines to Governor Mangunda Datu. The Melaka governor believes under the leadership of Governor Mangunda Datu, DMDI Philippines will flourish even more.
After listening to Pax Ali, the new governor of Sultan Kudarat speech, it seemed that you understand the role of DMDI very deep and can explain very well what we have done. I think under your leadership, taking over from your grandfather, Sultan Bapa Pax Kudarat, DMDI Philippines will grow much further in the future.
DMDI aims to strengthen cooperation among countries in the Malay and Islamic world in various fields such as economy, education, youth, tourism, women, culture, and sports. Since its establishment in Melaka in 2000, the organization has been active in organizing conventions, seminars, and workshops across member countries and provinces. Governor Mangunda Datu assured full provincial support for these ongoing and future initiatives.
As the provincial governor of Sultan Kudarat and father of my constituents, reiterate our 100% support and commitment to the DMDI. We're looking forward to work with their foundations, perhaps in building a DMDI college in Sultan Kudarat, or perhaps to enact or establish a partnership where we send scholars to Malaysia or exchange students from our very own state university. We're also looking forward, just like what was elaborated earlier today, exchanges of ideas such as the establishment of a system, a food bank that gives security to our people, that in times of calamity or in times of ease, there's always food available for every single person, rich or poor.
The governor also underscored the importance of unity among Muslims and Malays in fostering peace and development throughout the ASEAN region.
If all of the Muslim population and the Malay population of the world is united, we will be able to showcase the talents of our youth, our inventions just like in the golden era, and perhaps lead technological advancements in the ever-changing world. And I believe that change will always start from within. As we have established peace and unity in many fields, let us continue to do this across borders, not only in Sultan Kudarat, but maybe in the entire Mindanao group of islands, maybe in the entire Philippines, or even maybe the entire ASEAN region. One thing is for sure, ladies and gentlemen, every single one of us here has his or her own part to take. Peace, development, progress. It is not only the concern of the leaders, but it is the concern of every single individual. And I am optimistic that Sultan Kudarat and Malacca and DMDI together, we will be able to showcase the different offers that we can give to the world to establish a better Mindanao, better Philippines, and perhaps a better world for everyone.
To cap the evening, Governor Rustam warmly invited Governor Manguda Dato and his delegation to the upcoming DMDI convention in Jakarta, Indonesia this October.
We will allow you, give you a chance to speak more with other 23 DMDI member countries. We have 23 members countries. Malaysia, of course, and Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka. We have from Suriname, Madagascar, South Africa, in some Middle East countries, in Bosnia, altogether 23 countries. So you will have more friends of the Malay and Muslim. We can meet in Jakarta. And if you have time, you can also go to other DMDI member countries through our secretariat. You can contact the Secretary General, and you can promote also Manila, and also promote Philippines, anywhere you like in our member countries.
With renewed leadership and strong international partnerships, Sultan Kudarat and DMDI are poised to deepen cultural ties and foster progress across the region, showcasing the power of unity and shared purpose. For God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, on Wednesday turned over the National Expenditure Program, or NEP, to Congress, which lays out the government's spending plan for 2026 amounting to 6.793 trillion pesos. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman officially handed the NAP to House Speaker Martin Romualdez in a ceremony at the House of Representatives. The proposed national budget for next year is 7.4% higher than enacted by 2025 budget, with the theme Agenda for Prosperity, Nurturing Future-Ready Generations to Achieve the Full Potential of the Nation. The proposed budget is committed to advancing human capital development by prioritizing education, health, social protection, and food security. On August 12, the DBM chief presented the 2026 NEP, also known as the President's Budget, to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Malacanang Palace. For latest sports updates, Gilas Pilipinas is set to battle in the semifinals of the FIBA Asia Cup in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and Newcastle United have completed the signing of AC Milan defender Malik Thiaw, adding a major boost to their backline ahead of a new Premier League season. Here's Carlo De La Peña for the latest sports news.
After dropping their first two games to Chinese Taipei and New Zealand, Gilas earned a dramatic quarterfinal berth with a 95-88 overtime win against Saudi Arabia, highlighted by Justin Brownlee's game tying 3 in the dying seconds. They now face an undefeated Australia squad, which has dominated the Asia Cup since debuting in 2017. The Boomers swept Group A, led by Jalen Galloway's strong performances. Coach Tim Cohn admits this clash came earlier than expected, but says if Gilas wants to achieve something special, they have to go through Australia sooner or later. The 24-year-old German defender joins the Magpies for a reported 34 to 35 million pounds, including add-ons. He is Newcastle's third signing of the summer, following the arrival of winger Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest and goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale on loan from Southampton. Signing a centre-back was a top priority for manager Eddie Howe, who wants to boost competition in the backline and lower the squad's average age. Howe believes Malik Thiaw's Champions League experience, as well as his stints in the Bundesliga and Serie A, will be valuable addition as Newcastle prepares for a return to European competition this season. Thiaw moved to AC Milan from Schalke in 2022 and featured in 31 matches last season, scoring once against Real Madrid in the Champions League. He has also earned 3 caps for the German national team. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Carlo De La Peña, bringing you the latest sports news.
For showbiz updates, after a massively successful Eras tour, American pop sensation Taylor Swift dropped a bomb on a podcast with her boyfriend and his brother. We'll find out later on what that is. And
that was the exciting announcement from the global pop icon on Tuesday, made during the New Heights podcast, hosted by her boyfriend Travis Kelce and his brother Jason Kelce. Minutes later, Swift's official website confirmed the news. No exact release date yet, but Swifties can already pre-order a Portofino orange glitter vinyl and a special cassette edition. Shipping is expected before October 13. For now, fans can only guess what the new era will sound like. Beyoncé has done it again, this time making history at the Creative Arts Emmy Awards. The superstar took home her first ever Emmy for Outstanding Costumes for Variety, Non-Fiction or Reality Programming, recognized for the dazzling outfits in her Netflix special Beyoncé Bowl. Already the most awarded artist in Grammy history with 35 wins, Queen Bee now adds Emmy winner to her title, putting her halfway to the elite EGOT status. That's Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. The 2025 Primetime Emmy Awards will be held on September 14, airing on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. This is Andrea Santos, your citizen correspondent, bringing you latest show buzz.
Two 20-year-old best friends from California are turning a cross-country trek into a record-breaking adventure and a mission to help others. Cherilyn Lanillo for the story.
Coast of Delaware, the coast of California petition for us. We are walking across America. We're at the Atlantic Ocean. We're about to walk for almost 4,000 miles over 7 months to get home back to the Pacific Ocean.
What started as a gap year adventure has turned into an inspiring feat. Drew and Philip, childhood friends from San Mateo, California, are walking 3,600 miles across America in hopes of becoming the youngest pair ever to complete the journey. The duo began their trek in March, flying to Delaware before starting their westward walk home, a mission they've dubbed the Live-In Project. inspired by Matthew McConaughey's famous line from Dazed and Confused. But this walk is about more than just making history. Drew and Philip are using their journey to raise $50,000 for Convoy of Hope, a nonprofit that supported families, including people they know, after devastating Southern California wildfires earlier this year. So far, they've already raised over $43,000, with their road trip updates reaching millions online. Now, with less than 600 miles left, the friends say they're determined to reach the Pacific Ocean by mid-September, bringing with them not just a record, but hope for those in need. Charlie Nililio, your citizen correspondent, reporting for God and my beloved Philippines.
And before we end, may we be inspired with the words of the song. Do not let your mind rule you. You have to rule your mind. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Fatima Nawzil. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.